Hey guys, this is Tiffany with the Nerdettes, and I am really I don't know how to describe it, I understand that a lot of people are not watching the newest season of The Walking Dead. It's actually been said it's like the lowest watched, lowest rated season to date, season 8 is. And I mean, there have been, I think so far, like two or maybe yeah, two episodes so far that really stood out this season. Maybe more. Maybe we'll get more. This episode was kind of eh. But yeah, this is episode 6 of The Walking Dead season 8, and it's called The King, the Widow, and Rick. And all along, we've heard them talk about their idea or goal of getting, Ezekiel, the king, Maggie the widow, and Rick from Alexandria kind of like, I guess, bonded together, like maybe on a fence or on posts or something, so they can make an example of them to the people. So that's their ultimate goal for the saviors and whatnot. So basically, this opens up with the kingdom mourning its losses. Like, obviously, now the people know who didn't return and who didn't make it. So they're grieving, and more than anything now, they need their king. They need Ezekiel. He's the one that's banded them together and been that voice for them. And, he's dealing with his own losses of his people and Shiva and just everyone he's lost in his own way. And his way to do that is, like, he's having this kind of self, crisis, so to speak, of his identity, because he, in a way, he's played a part because the people needed him to play it, and he's always been there for the people, and now he's kind of regressing. He's going back to like the way he used to be when he was a zookeeper and saying, I'm no king, I'm no leader, when in reality, the kingdom really needs him to step up and be there like he has been in the past. So it's really tough to see him so down, and he won't take any visitors. He won't talk to anybody. He's basically kind of, set himself away, isolated himself from everybody else to, like, grieve by himself. But yeah, so that's Ezekiel right now. And then we have Jesus, who is, he's going down the line. The prisoners right now are sitting alongside the fence outside Hilltop, and Jesus is feeding them some turnips. And Maggie gets very upset because she's like, why are you feeding them our food? Why are you taking this food? This is our food from our stores. And he has to basically talk to her and say, this, I mean, we have to think about the bigger picture. We can't be selfish. If we win the war, what are we going to be able to look back and say we did it for? Like, what kind of good things are going to come at the end of this? Can we look back and say, I'm happy with what we did? So he kind of speaks to her from a leader standpoint to kind of make her realize, maybe there's a time to be selfish and a time to see what happens and what these people like choose. Give them a choice. So we'll see what happens. But so yeah, we see Michonne. We've seen her a little bit, like glimpses, but not fully. And we see Rosita. Gosh, I don't even remember actually the last time we saw Rosita. I feel like it's not been since last season, like, yeah. So I feel like this is our first time this season seeing Rosita. So her and Michonne actually choose to go to Sanctuary because when they rolled off and decided to, finally attack Sanctuary after they took down all the outposts, they left Michonne, they left Rosita, and quite a few people behind. Carl and a lot of people that, didn't get to join and didn't get to see what happened there. So Michonne decides she needs to see it with her own eyes. She actually says to Rosita that some sort of alarm has been going off in her head, like something's not quite right. There's like a danger type of, like, almost sixth sense that she feels. So she wants to go check it out herself, and Rosita goes with her. So anyway, Carol is kind of like she walks out of the kingdom for a little while, and this kid, like the brother of the boy who died, I think it was his name Greg, maybe. Anyway, the guy that died, this is his little brother. He's following Carol because he wants to fight, and he knows that they need fighters. He knows that no one's been able to get into Ezekiel or to see him, so he wants to take a stand also, and wants to also, ultimately get revenge for what happened to his brother. And Carol's like, he's way too young. He's inexperienced. He doesn't know what he's getting himself into. And she doesn't feel like he should be risking his life. This is just a kid. So, but, she looks at him, and, he's had to, like Carl did, he's had to grow up a little bit too quickly, in the circumstances of this world. And so she kind of begrudgingly agrees to let him kind of tag along with her. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, we go back to Maggie, and they were talking about building I guess like a hanging post. So the typical old Western style, like a stage of sorts with the hangman's noose, and just hanging all the people that are from Sanctuary. And so Jesus knows that they're building something, and the worst suspicion is that she's taking the advice of her fellow hilltop inhabitants and of Gregory, and building this hangman's noose, the gallows. So luckily it's not that. She builds a gigantic pen inside the gate for the prisoners to kind of stay in. So she gets them in there, and she's kind of herding them like cattle because they go in two by two, and at the same time it's just for security purposes. And as she gets them in there, Gregory's like, see, I don't think this is a good idea. You don't want people inside the gate that you can't trust. And she's like, you're exactly right. I've been thinking about that and thinking what you told me last night. And ultimately, they decide to put him in the pen with the prisoners as well, because they can't trust him. After giving up Hilltop, after giving all the plans and everything to Negan, and trying to be the, big guy on campus, now he's basically, being put in this pen with these prisoners. So, of course, he tries to, fight against it. They bash his head against a post and ultimately drag him in there. So anyway, he's in there with the prisoners, and of course you have a prisoner that goes for one of the ladies' guns. They have to knock him out and all that stuff. So anyway, we go back to Carl, and Carl's out in the woods, and it looks like he's been kind of watching after that drifter that he saw all that time ago at the gas station, that his dad kind of fired those warning shots above in the air, and he took off running. And we don't really know his story or who he is or anything about him, but basically Carl comes and gives them food and water, and they have a conversation. And basically Carl says that the reason he has been going out of his way to look after him and follow him is because whenever he first met him, this drifter was talking about something his mother said. And it resonated with Carl because I guess now he's kind of going through this stage of thinking trying to, evolve into this next stage of manhood that he's going through. And he, at this point, he's kind of thinking to himself, he wants to keep part of the survival instinct that his dad has instilled in him. But at the same time, he wants to keep that kind of humane side that Lori always had. So, you kind of see him recognizing that and talking about his mom and just the type of things she would do or what she would say. And he feels almost compelled because of that sense of what Lori would do to look after this drifter and to kind of make sure he's taken care of. And he asks him the three questions. How many walkers have you killed? This guy I mean, he knows it to the number how many walkers he's killed. And he says he does it to like honor his mom and to honor her memory in a way. And of course, he says he's only ever killed one person, basically because the walkers had already gotten to them, and he wanted to kill them before they had to get ripped apart, basically. So, but yeah, so Carl is basically at this point wanting to take him back to Alexandria. And, this is his decision that he's made for himself. Obviously, Rick probably would not want this. I can almost guarantee it. But Carl is kind of coming into his own and making his own decisions. So there you go. But all of a sudden, these walkers attack Carl and this drifter, and they end up actually saving each other. I mean, they're both, armed. They both take on these, walkers, and I feel like at the end of this, they're going to have a bond, which I'm really glad to see. I feel like Carl kind of needs someone, not his age, but maybe a little bit younger than, say, his dad, maybe like upper teens, lower 20s, which is what this guy is, to kind of like be a friend and be someone to rely on and kind of grow with, I think. And so maybe that's who this ultimately will be. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, we go back to Michonne and Rosita. They've come into this warehouse. I'm guessing at Sanctuary or one of the kind of outlying buildings or whatnot. Maybe at an outpost, and they're there, kind of looking at. They hear music, and they're not quite. It's like opera, and they're not quite sure where it's coming from, and it's obviously going to draw walkers from Sanctuary or wherever else to this spot. So they go check it out, and it's like this warehouse. It almost reminds me of the warehouse where Eugene was trying to make bullets. I mean, it's very similar, if not the same. So basically, the saviors are putting these large speakers into the back of this pickup truck and hooking it up in such a way that it's blaring this opera music loud and far and wide for the walkers to hear and be drawn by. So, obviously Rosita and Michonne want to stop this because, I mean, this is going to throw a crutch in their plans and all that stuff. So they end up getting in a firefight with, I guess, the two people that are there. And, like, out of nowhere, we see, like, Negan's legs and feet and hear him whistling. I think you kind of see the bat a little bit as well, like, as he kind of swings it downward towards his feet. But yeah, so somehow he's here, too, I'm guessing. How he got here, who on earth knows? Because the last time we saw him, he was in Sanctuary with Gabriel and all them. So, beats me how in the world he got here, or if somehow this is connected to Sanctuary. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty baffled about this. So, hopefully they'll explain that, I guess. But anyway, Rosita freaking pulls out a rocket launcher and is going after this girl that's in there in this warehouse to try to, like, this guy's like, oh, you won't use that, boom, and poof, he incinerates. So, I mean, obviously she is armed and dangerous and not afraid to use this. So, ooh. But so we go back, and Daryl and Tara show up, and they basically like come in the nick of time and run into Michonne and Rosita, and they're like, what are you doing here? And, Rosita and Michonne have to say, basically, we needed to see it for ourselves, and see what was going on here. So, but basically it goes back to Carol, and she's talking to Ezekiel like he's always been that one that has given everybody else that pep talk, that boost. And I don't think we ever, like, even you and I as human beings, every now and then, as much as we lift up our friends, our family, people that we care about, sometimes we really need it ourselves. And I mean, let's be honest, sometimes it really feels good and helps to have someone kind of you know, bring you up from a, like, when you're really down, obviously, like, Ezekiel is, like, worse than he's ever been, to a better, way of thinking, back to the light, so to speak. So that's what Carol's trying to do. She's trying to remind him of all that he's accomplished, like the fact that he convinced these people to join him in building the kingdom and making it a peaceful refuge for people to come and have food, and a community. He's built like a family and a strong community from the ground up. And she kind of reminds him of that, because he's going down that depressed, like, I'm not worthy type mentality right now. So she reminds him of his accomplishments and what he's done, and how he's so used to acting, and instead of like being so much in himself, like drawing inside of himself, he needs to put on that brave face and keep moving forward, keep pushing forward, and remain like in that acting personality. She's like, you've got to keep acting. You've got to, bring back King Ezekiel, because that's who the people need right now. That's who they need, especially in this time of grief, is you to put on your brave face and bring back your King Ezekiel, even if it's a facade, even if underneath you're broken and hurt. Your people need this. So, I mean, that's really kind of what he needs to hear, and that kind of like splash of cold water in the face to say, hey, this isn't just about you. You need to think about more than just yourself. So, he actually says that of all the people, that Carol makes him feel real, like all, I guess, not just this persona or what he kind of like acts like, or that brave face he puts on, but him as a person, him as a whole, that she makes him feel real. And what a heck of a compliment. I mean, you can see it makes her very emotional and very, humbled, that he would say such a thing. So, I mean, he needs that reminder that he is real. He's not just some guy, like that previous episode. He is real. He does exist, and he kind of needs to remember his purpose in a way. So, but basically, also, like, the big thing of how this ends, I'll just kind of briefly go through this real quick. Rick has gone back to the junkyard and talked to them and basically said, I've taken down Sanctuary. Let bygones be bygones. Put the past in the past. I'm giving you the opportunity again, even though he was betrayed by these people, to make a deal and to side with them and to, fight together to join this new community that will emerge after this war of Alexandria, the Hilltop, and the Kingdom all joined together. And once again, they say no, and they actually... Rick came by himself, I'm guessing, I think. I don't know if that's fully accurate, but it would seem so. But they basically lock him up. So he's locked inside of like this shipping container, like that is melting hot. So of course we see him at the very end of this, like sweating profusely. Looks like he's naked, probably, where he's gotten so overheated he's taken off his clothes. And so, yeah, I mean, this episode, it was okay. I mean, getting to see Michonne and Rosita again was good. Rosita with the rocket launcher was a good highlight. But, we're getting back into those kind of, like, what you feel like are filler episodes, So, and it's kind of hard because you come down from an episode that, like we had last episode, episode 5, where it's so Negan-centric, so powerful, so memorable, and so impactful, to something like this again, where, and I get that they have to focus on all the characters and the character development and where they are, their mentality, their kind of like stages as they kind of progress through this war. But at the same time, it's like, okay, it's almost like it's lagging a lot in parts, and I think that's why so many people are not watching it anymore. There's a lot of people out there that have not caught up this season, that are not watching it and don't care to. And that, unfortunately, that's why, is there's so much filler, so much needless, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some great speeches, but they are so verbose, so just long, that you're like, okay, let's get to the good stuff, which apparently I'm starting to get to. Sorry, you guys. So anyway, that's all for episode 6 of season 8, The King, the Widow, and Rick. And I mean, hopefully we'll see more of that kind of like heart pumping epic feel that we felt before. I'm really hoping so. I'm sure they will before the season, this kind of mid-season finale happens or whatnot. So we'll see what happens, but definitely appreciate you guys watching. Check out my giveaway video that I'm about to post. We are giving away 2 games. We are giving away Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Call of Duty World War II. So if you want to win those, definitely check out that video. Go ahead and subscribe, because that's what you need to do to actually win the games. And I'll be posting all about the details of how to win those here very shortly. So again, thank you for watching. Definitely subscribe. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thenerdettes. And we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.